subscribe.
On the 18th of November, 1987, at around 7 p.m., a commuter got off a Piccadilly line train on the London Underground. As they ascended the escalator up towards the ticket hall, they lit a cigarette. Smoking was banned on the Underground, of course, but they were on their way out, and it was quite normal for travelers to light up once they were off a train and nearing an exit. This particular commuter lit their cigarette, shook out the match, and flicked it away. They left the station and headed home, not knowing that they had just started a chain reaction that would lead to the deaths of 31 people. King's Cross is one of London's most famous stations. It is immortalized in film and fiction and represents one of the capital's transport hubs. When first constructed in 1852, King's Cross was the terminus of the Great Northern Railway, and thus a place where many people would enter or depart London. Over the years, it has only grown in importance. By the 1980s, multiple railway and underground train lines intersected at King's Cross, including the Metropolitan, Circle, Northern, Piccadilly, and Victoria lines. At this time, King's Cross was the busiest station in London, seeing tens of thousands of travelers each day. To keep these crowds moving on their way to and from some of the deep underground platforms, such as those for the Northern, Piccadilly, and Victoria lines, there were a number of lifts and also several escalators. It was very common at the time for escalators to be made of wood, albeit with some plastic and metal components, and indeed the escalators at King's Cross were wooden ones. While this may seem unusual from a modern perspective, wooden escalators were generally hard-wearing and, with proper maintenance, lasted for many years. On the 18th of November, 1987, at around 7:30 p.m., several passengers using an escalator that ascended from the Piccadilly line to the ticket hall noticed the smell of smoke and the glow of a smoldering fire visible through the gaps between and beside the escalator treads. One passenger alerted a nearby staff member, while another pressed the emergency stop and shouted to travelers to get off the escalator. As soon as they were made aware of the fire, London Underground staff and British Transport police officers began to respond. The escalator was closed off, emergency services were called to the scene, and staff moved to reroute passengers to other escalators. Senior staff members also checked the machine rooms that gave access to escalator machinery at the top and bottom of the escalator. There was visible fire in the top machine room. The fire brigade were quickly informed. This was all done with a degree of urgency, of course. A fire anywhere in an underground station was understood to be a cause for alarm. At the same time, however, staff were aware of several facts. Fires on wooden escalators happened occasionally. They were not an everyday occurrence, but a minor fire might take place somewhere on the network a few times a year. Though such fire had ever resulted in a death or serious injury, or developed to the point that it damaged an escalator beyond repair. To mitigate the danger of escalator fires, many wooden escalators across the underground had been fitted with water fogging systems, which could be used to spray a haze of water droplets over the whole escalator, including the machinery underneath. When it was installed, this water fogging system had been used every day as a precaution against small smoldering fires. This drastically reduced the risk of a fire spreading, but also massively shortened the lifespan of almost every component of the escalators. After some time, the system fell out of daily use and was only used in emergencies. The burning escalator at King's Cross had a fogging system fitted, but it had been so long since staff used it that it did not occur to them to do so now. Instead, they attempted to fight the fire using handheld carbon dioxide extinguishers, but were unable to get good enough access to actually extinguish the flames. Trains calling at King's Cross were ordered not to stop or offload passengers, although it took several minutes for this instruction to reach train drivers, and at least 2 trains dropped off passengers after the fire had been discovered. 7:39 p.m., a full evacuation of the ticket hall began. Despite the best efforts of police, staff, and firefighters who had now arrived on scene, the fire appeared to be spreading, albeit slowly. By 7:43 p.m., it was described as being the size of a large cardboard box. The ticket hall was emptying steadily, and there was a light haze of smoke in the air. The situation appeared as though it would soon be under control. 2 minutes later, at 7:45 p.m., everything changed. The fire, previously small, flashed over, fireball ballooned up the escalator, and hot, choking black smoke exploded into the ticket hall. People screamed and stumbled about in the darkness. The fireman in charge ordered his personnel and the remaining members of the public in the ticket hall to run for their lives. Those in the ticket hall, though blinded by smoke, did have immediate access to a way out, but there were also still staff, firefighters and hundreds of passengers on the lower platforms at King's Cross. Between them and open air was a now fiercely blazing fire. Just minutes ago, drivers had been told not to stop at King's Cross due to a fire. Now, however, drivers intent on obeying this instruction were flagged down by their desperate colleagues on the north-bound Victoria Line platform. 3 trains, one after the other, stopped and took on passengers, evacuating nearly 200 people who had no other way out of the burning station. A small number of trapped staff and police were also evacuated from the Metropolitan Line platform in a similar manner. Elsewhere on the upper levels of the station, staff were assisting a passenger who had sustained serious burns during the flashover. They doused him with a fire extinguisher and then tried to evacuate him to street level, but found their way blocked by a locked gate. After several minutes of trying to force the gate or reach someone who could open it, a British rail cleaner found the group, unlocked the gate, and helped them escape. At 9:45 p.m. a Northern Line train, the driver of which had not yet been informed of the fire, stopped and let off passengers, who were quickly turned around by police and made to reboard the train and evacuate. As the evening went on, more and more resources were called in. Ambulances queued outside the station to ferry more than 100 injured people to hospital, while more than 30 fire engines attended to contribute to the effort to control the flames. Eventually, by 2 a.m., firefighters with breathing apparatus had managed to run hose lines to the burning escalator and extinguish the flames. They then turned their attention to searching the burned station for bodies. In total, 31 people had been killed either by flames or by smoke inhalation. Some were so badly burned that they could not be identified. One body remained unidentified for many years after the fire, until in 2004 when advanced forensic technology was used to finally confirm the name of the deceased, 73-year-old Alexander Fallon, who had been visiting London from Falkirk in Scotland. In the aftermath of the fire, multiple investigations were launched. A scientific inquiry by the Health and Safety Executive examined the behavior of the fire, seeking to understand why it had worsened so dramatically at the point of flashover. Building fires were known to cause intense heat which could cause materials to emit flammable gases. Once these flammable gases reached their ignition temperature, they would catch fire. This is what leads to flashover, or the sudden dramatic spread of flames, in many building fires. It was found that in the King's Cross fire, this known phenomenon had been worsened by a previously undocumented effect, the trench effect. Flammable gases tend to adhere to surfaces. When this happens on an incline, the perfect conditions are created for the flame to race up the surface in a sudden jet when flashover takes place. This effect is worsened when the flammable gases are effectively contained within a trench, as they were by the escalator in the case of the King's Cross fire. While scientists investigated the mechanism by which the fire had spread, government investigators considered the response to the fire and how things might have been done differently. Station staff, police, firefighters and passengers were interviewed and a detailed timeline of the fire assembled. It was found that small fires on the wooden escalators of the London Underground were a somewhat regular occurrence, and that staff had been instructed to try and tackle small fires without alerting the fire brigade. Indeed, in reports made by London Underground staff, it had become the norm to refer to very small escalator fires as smoldering to avoid using the word fire. Training for dealing with fires was, at the same time, very poor. Most staff at the station had never used the water fogging system installed on the escalator, nor even seen it used by any of their colleagues. There was no cohesive plan for evacuating the entire station, and many staff, such as ticket sellers and cleaners, were not given any instruction as to what to do in the event of an emergency. Additionally, many wooden escalators across the network were poorly maintained. Grease and dirt were frequently allowed to build up in the machinery, creating the perfect fuel for a fire. When other wooden escalators were examined, multiple burn marks were found, indicating that fires had begun, smoldered, and burned themselves out repeatedly in the past. Finally, smoking on the London Underground, including within stations, had been illegal for several years, but no signs were posted to inform passengers of this, and the ban was not readily enforced. In the years after the fire, clear signage was added to the underground network, staff were retrained, and wooden escalators were slowly removed from across the city and replaced with more durable metal ones. King's Cross Station was rebuilt and reopened. Today it is still a crucial transit hub and remains as busy as ever. In the ticket hall can be found a plaque which bears the names of those who died in the disaster, and memorial clock, donated and maintained to this day by the staff of the London Underground.